Hello there, I'm Lady Loy. Lovers Rock Radio 7 till 9 on Fridays, Gold Standard Radio 7 till 9 on Saturdays. And you can catch me on both on www.mixcloud.com, Lady Loy, or mixcloud.com/Gold Standard Radio. Now, this is a continuation of the video I did about whether or not intimacy is a transaction. And it came about by me watching two videos, one about women not needing men anymore, and the other one was about men not liking women or something, actually hating women. And it was quite disturbing. So I've done the first part, and this is the second part of the video because I couldn't put it in one. So this part that resonated, well, what disturbed me or whatever I'm going to call it, was what happens to relationships when men and women begin approaching one another as potential predators, users, manipulators, resources, or victims. So once again, there was something I heard this morning that disturbed me, not because everything I heard was nonsense. Actually, that was the problem. Some of it was true. Some of it contained uncomfortable truths. Some of it was clearly somebody's personal experience being presented as though it were universal truth. And some of it made me stop and think, hold on a minute, where are we going with this? It was a conversation about men and women, relationships, marriage, trust, sex, money, domestic responsibilities, manipulation, and whether women actually need men at all. And what really caught my attention was that women weren't the only ones criticising men. Some of the men were agreeing with what the women were saying. Men were admitting most men are like that. And I found myself thinking, well, have I been too naive about human nature? Because when somebody tells you something about themselves, you have to decide whether you're listening to honesty, bravado, bitterness, performance, or in some cases, a combination of all four. In the video, there were some very legitimate complaints being made by women. Women do sometimes carry more of the domestic load. Men who gossip about their partners, men who belittle women in front of their friends, men who use the silent treatment, men who avoid accountability, men who become controlling or abusive. Those things are not inventions. Domestic abuse is real. Coercive control is real. Violence is real. Women have the right to protect themselves from it, but then the conversation moves somewhere else. Suddenly, it wasn't about some men. It became all men. Men are like this. Men always do that. Men cannot be trusted. Men don't like women. Men get bored. Men deliberately manipulate women. Men say whatever they need to say to get access. Men change after marriage. Men change after the baby. Men are predators. And I thought, wait, hang on a minute. Are we still talking about unhealthy men, or have we now decided that being male is itself evidence of untrustworthiness and unreliability? Because there is an important difference. One of the things that really made me uncomfortable was the suggestion that marriage itself is some kind of trap designed by men to enslave women. Marriage has certainly been used within societies to control women. Women have historically had fewer economic, legal and social choices than they have today. But to take that history and conclude that marriage itself is a scam, or that every man who wants to marry a woman is trying to secure ownership of her, is another leap altogether. Because marriage can be a bad institution when two unhealthy people enter it. But marriage doesn't make somebody selfish, and a wedding ring doesn't turn a decent man into a predator. And equally, marriage doesn't turn a woman into a saint. You can be married and lonely. You can be married and abused. You can be married and deeply loved. You can be unmarried and perfectly fulfilled. The piece of paper isn't the magic ingredient. People are. I also heard men saying things that made me uncomfortable. Men saying, don't trust men because they're not interested in women. They're only interested in what women can do for them. They were also saying that some men were jealous and resentful of women because some women were doing better financially. Men were admitting that they wear a facade that they take off once they've got the woman, the baby, or the marriage. I don't know if they were describing themselves or men that they know, but if you are a man listening to that thinking that's not me, good. Don't take offence. Take responsibility for being the kind of man who makes that statement untrue, because that is how you challenge the stereotype, not by shouting, not all men, but by becoming a man who is trustworthy. The thing that disturbed me most about the videos is that I kept hearing women saying men don't really like women and that they're sleeping with the enemy, while some men were saying things that appeared to confirm it. I found myself asking, if heterosexual men genuinely don't like women and heterosexual women only tolerate men because they want something from them, then what on earth are we doing? How are we supposed to build anything? Because eventually love becomes a business transaction. What do you bring? What do I get? What do you cost? What can you provide? What access do I have? What protection do you give me? What sex do I get? What money do I get? What status do I get? And suddenly two human beings aren't meeting each other anymore. Two negotiators have arrived at the table, and maybe this is why I found those videos so sad, because underneath all the anger I could hear disappointment. Women who don't want to be used, men who don't want to be used, women who are tired of carrying everything, men who feel they're only valued for what they provide, women afraid of being deceived, men afraid of being rejected, women saying, I don't need a man, men saying, I don't need a woman. And underneath all of it, perhaps are two groups of human beings saying, I don't want to be hurt again. I understand that, I really do, but if we build our future relationships entirely around avoiding hurt, we may never become very good at protecting ourselves. We may become very good at protecting ourselves and very bad at connecting with another human being. We have to learn to separate experience from evidence, warning from generalization, and accountability from condemnation. Men are not a single species with one operating system. Women aren't either. There are good men and there are bad men. There are selfish men. There are generous men. There are men who need to grow up. And there are men who have done an enormous amount of work on themselves. There are women who have been badly treated. There are women who treat people badly. There are women who manipulate. There are women who love deeply and honestly. Human beings are complicated. And perhaps that is the bit we keep forgetting. So I'm not going to tell women to ignore the warning signs. And I'm not going to tell them to sit quietly while somebody tells them their entire species is defective. I don't believe that either. What I will say is this: don't let somebody else's bad experience become your entire philosophy on love. Don't let somebody else's bitterness teach you to distrust people you haven't even met. Don't let social media turn men into predators and women into victims, because neither description leaves much room for human beings to actually grow. And if you're looking for a relationship, don't ask only, what can this person do for me? Ask, who is this person when nobody's watching? Ask, can we agree? Can we repair? Can we tell each other the truth? Can we remain individuals while becoming partners? Can we give without keeping score? Can we receive without becoming entitled? Because perhaps the real question isn't whether women need men or whether men need women. Perhaps the question is whether human beings still know how to need one another without owning one another. Whether we can love without exploiting. Whether we can protect ourselves without becoming incapable of trust. Whether we can hold somebody accountable without declaring them incapable of change, and whether we can enter a relationship not looking for somebody to complete us, rescue us, finance us, validate us, or serve us, but looking for somebody with whom we can build something healthy. That to me is a relationship worth having, and that is a very different conversation from men versus women. Because at the end of the day, I don't want to live in a world where women are taught to fear men and men are taught to resent women. I want to live in a world where a good man can be recognised and a good woman can still be recognised as a good woman, and neither one of them have to apologise for wanting to be loved and be loved.